Hi everyone, John here from Three Worlds Martial Arts. And the number one thing that people send me in my social media stuff is about questions on how to be a better instructor, how to run better classes, just mostly stuff related to teaching martial arts. So I have some tips for you. They're in no particular order, but I think they might be helpful. And as always, we're going to begin with well, what is it within myself that I have to work on to be a better instructor? And then there's what do I do with the actual classes, right? So there's two issues, but it all is connected. So I think it always begins with, if you want to be a better instructor, you have to set the example. If you want your students to trust you and respect you, create in yourself what you claim to create in other people. When they see you walking the same path that you're telling them to walk, you're going to earn their trust and respect. So when you give them, a training, they're going to follow because they know that you're giving them sound advice based on your experience, that you really care about this, right? You are living it. You're not just talking about it. You're not a martial artist just in the school, right? You are a martial artist throughout. So set that example for the students. It's important as an instructor to be fit and high energy when you teach. So that comes with training, right? Train to stay fit and high energy when you teach classes, especially if you're teaching several classes a day. You might be into the fourth straight hour of teaching, and if you're not in shape, you're going to be pretty tired, and the class is going to be obvious, right? So your first class is great because you felt great. Your second one, your third one, by the fourth one, you're just waiting for it to be done. So it's important to keep yourself physically fit and to train. So not just when you go out there, you can keep up, but you're also inspired, right? You're coming in there with a high energy attitude and you're ready to teach, because you can have all the enthusiasm there is for teaching a class, but when your body's exhausted, right, it doesn't work out. So train to be physically fit and inspired when you teach. Now, as far as ways to be a good teacher, this is probably my favorite one. Go be a white belt someplace else. Find a school, find a style, and that you know nothing about, and go be a white belt there. You will learn so much from being taught. And as a white belt, right, you're going to really experience the way instructors interact with brand new students, which is important. You're going to learn more from experiencing it than you would reading about it or listening to someone else. It puts you in touch with where the students are at, right? And it also shows you what not to do and maybe some things that would be different. And once again, there's an example to be set here. So your students see that you're not too proud to go be a white belt someplace else, right? That just builds even more trust and respect in you as a teacher. Now with this, it's important to always have a lesson plan. So when you're going to go teach a class, you should know what you're going to teach that day, because you know what you taught yesterday and even what you taught 3 weeks ago. You know who's coming to class, or if it's beginners, intermediates, advanced, or mixed. You teach accordingly because you have your lesson plan. If I go to class knowing what I'm going to teach and how it relates to everything else that's being taught, the classes will just be better. I mean, we don't want to have a situation where you walk out in the class and you're like, oh, let's see, you're not sure. And then you ask students, well, what do you want to work on? You're the instructor, right? They're paying you to be the teacher, so you should be the one to call the lesson plan. Because if you don't have a lesson plan, you won't know what you've been teaching either. You might be spending too much time on one thing and not enough time on the other to make sure the students are getting everything they need to grow as martial artists. It's important when you're running a class to challenge the students, but to also keep them safe. So one of the things is you watch people's fitness levels and you don't push people over, right? You want to take people to their limits so that they grow and they get stronger, but we got to make sure that everybody's safe. And that's just not watching out for too much physical exertion, but it's also in how you pair people up, right? sparring partners, drill partners, whatever, should be compatible, right? So you don't have somebody who's hitting pads and the holder isn't strong enough to keep the pads in place, but rather make people compatible. So you're pushing them, you're challenging them, but you've got their safety in mind the whole time. You're watching and making sure they're not going too far, just the same as you make sure that they're not being sleepy about things, right? You inspect that they do things with more energy and more power. At the same time, we have to make sure that everybody is safe. And then there's also managing the time. So if you have a class and it's an hour and a half or 2 hours or an hour, whatever you do, everything that needs to be taught, because if you have a curriculum and you have requirements, you have things that need to be taught, make sure you get enough time for everything. It's not good to have requirements, right? And put requirements on students and don't teach them in the class and expect them to be ready for belt tests, force them into the test, and of course they're not going to do well because they didn't get enough chance to really work on the material. Make sure you manage the time so that you get a chance to teach them what you require of them. Realistic expectations go a long way. Whatever group you're teaching, right? Beginners, intermediates, advanced, adults, kids, and different ages they're in. The expectations have to match the group, right? You can't have the same expectations for, your 17, 18, 19-year-old students. You can't have that same expectation on 5-year-olds, right? They're different. So when I go to teach a class of young kids or brand new people, I can't come out there with the same instructor's mind that just got done teaching a class of black belts. The expectations have to be realistic. Therefore, the lesson plan is a big part of it, right? The lesson plan for 4 and 5-year-olds is not the same lesson plan for 8 and 9-year-olds probably. It's different because it's based on the individual and what they're doing and what they need in class. But the expectations are realistic. We don't expect 5-year-olds to pay attention the entire time. We don't expect, students in their 60s to do jump spinning hook kicks, right? Doesn't mean we don't ask, but we have the realistic expectations so that we can be effective in teaching everyone. I guess I'll just close with this, that I believe that the whole heart of your school is your training floor, and that's where you get the students and that's where you keep the students. And it's easier to keep the ones you have than to get new ones, because the ones that you have are already on board, right? They're happy with what they're doing. So never forsake the members that you have in favor of members that you don't have, right? So don't do anything to make their training different or worse in the pursuit of new students, but rather put lots of work into the students that you have while allotting sufficient time for bringing in new people. Because, the old hole in the bucket analogy from a long time ago that was really used in it's just, you're going to have every 20 students that come in, you're going to lose 9 or something like that. I think that's the wrong attitude to have. The attitude should say, if you're lucky enough to get 20 students, you're going to work really hard to keep them, right? You're going to work really hard to keep them. And because you're working so hard and they're benefiting from what you're doing, they're going to stay. And if finances is really the matter here, that's a steady customer base, if you will, of people. They're going to keep paying for your instruction. So everybody benefits when you try to do things to make yourself a better instructor, make your classes better, make your school better. So that's about it. So thank you so much for listening, and especially if you stuck it out until the end. So thank you.